The United Nations in New York, on the eve of the opening of its 16th Assembly session, is plunged into mourning upon the passing of Dag Hammarskjold. More than 8 years ago, on April 14, 1953, he had assumed his difficult post as the successor to Trygve Lie. The serious, quietly courageous Swedish diplomat was to bring new stature to the job of Chief Administrative Officer of the UN. And in his quest for peace, he met death. In mournful tribute, the flags of the member nations are removed from their poles in front of the world headquarters, even while the first impacts are felt in far-flung capitals of the globe. Hammarskjold's death in the line of duty could rock the very foundations of the UN. A lone UN banner flies at half-staff as saddened colleagues gather at a news conference to make the official announcement of the Secretary General's death in the wilds of Central Africa. He was en route to peace talks with Katanga President Moise Tshombe when he perished in the crash of the plane flying him from Leopoldville, the Congo, to Ndola in northern Rhodesia. The Brazilian Undersecretary for Public Information, H. Tavares de Sá, speaks.
In keeping with the spirit which typified the dedicated efforts of Mr. Hammarskjold, the Secretariat is carrying on with a full sense of its duty. May I add that I am sure I interpret the feeling of all my colleagues and all our fellow workers in this House and wherever the United Nations is at work in the cause of peace, to say that this is a tragic loss for the United Nations, for the cause of peace everywhere, and for humanity.
During his 8 years as Secretary General, leaders throughout the world showed their respect for the gentlemanly Hammarskjold. Here, President Eisenhower. He walked with the peacemakers who came to the World Forum, and he lived and worked by the letter of the Charter of the United Nations. No peace mission was too difficult or too hazardous. He worked long hours, patient and tireless, a world diplomat of the atomic age with the assignment of soldier of peace. His personal mission to bring peace in the Congo was his last UN service. It was the handling of the Congo crisis which was responsible for last year's attack on Hammarskjold by Premier Khrushchev. On hand in person at a riotous session, Khrushchev demanded his replacement by a troika, a three-man board made up of one communist, one Westerner, and one neutral, each with a veto. Ignoring a red desk-pounding exhibition, Hammarskjold refused to resign, dramatically announcing his intention of remaining in office for his full term.
I shall remain in my post during the term of office. It is very easy to resign. It is not so easy to stay on. It is very easy to bow to the wish of a big power. It is another matter to resist. As is well known to all members of this assembly, I have done so before on many occasions and in many directions. If it is the wish of those nations who see in the organization their best protection in the present world, I shall do so again.
Thus, he continued to serve until death came at 56, while he sought life for a darkened world. In Washington, President Kennedy, who plans later to address the UN General Assembly, voices this tribute.
I know that I'm speaking for all of my fellow Americans, expressing our deep sense of shock and loss in the untimely death of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Dag Hammarskjold. Dag Hammarskjold's cause, dedication to the cause of peace, his untiring labors to achieve it, his courage under attack, his willingness to accept all responsibility in trying to strengthen the United Nations and make it a more effective instrument for the aspirations of the hundreds of millions of people around the globe who desire to live out their lives. Those efforts of his are well known. It is tragic and ironical that his death came during a mission he was undertaking in order to bring a ceasefire in Katanga. I am hopeful that the members of the United Nations, recognizing his untiring labors, will attempt in the coming sessions and in the years to come to try to build the United Nations into the effective instrument for peace, which was Dag Hammarskjold's great ambition. I express my sympathy to his country, the government of Sweden, and I hope that all of us will recognize the heavy burden his passing places upon us.